I didn't know what to do because everyone said you had to do this thing. I messed up most of my life growing up. I was dealing with a lot of things at the time, so went to school, never studied, dropped out.
Do you think money gets you respect?
Life isn't only about making money. I'm not stupid, but I was never interested in the things that were presented to me. I think that's pretty important to understand what you're passionate about. And as soon as I engaged the things that I wanted to do and that I was passionate about, I excelled.
You were in law enforcement for 18 years, and I'm damn sure it wasn't easy.
I think the difficult parts for me at the beginning was I wasn't a good husband. We're going through the divorce. We had a house that we had bought together, and so I moved into the basement. I'm paying rent. My daughter's upstairs. It was difficult for me. And then the pandemic happens. If you're in a basement suite with limited windows and lights, and you're stuck in there for weeks at a time, what that might do to your mental health. I was like, okay, man, I've driven my life into a ditch, but how do I fix that? That's what I started doing.
You've completed 60 kilometers run in 60 days.
After I'd done that, I was really proud of myself.
Sat Sri Akal and welcome to Miles to Million Punjabi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you that you've completed 60 kilometers run in 60 days. How was that experience?
That's a big question. It was a good experience. Anytime I do something that's challenging like that, I always find it to be a good experience because I learned so much through the process. And we raised a lot of money for charity, and so overall, it was great.
You yourself come from a first responders background. You were in law enforcement for 18 years, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. I've worked in law enforcement for 18 years. A little bit of service in the military, just about 1 year. It was not in combat or anything, but just basic training and stuff. But I also have a family history of military and policing in India. So my grandfather, my great grandfather, my great uncle, and a whole bunch of other people were in the military. And so it felt kind of natural to go into law enforcement, and been doing that for 18 years. But now I'm kind of on a different path now, where I'm transitioning out of my career so I can focus full time doing what I'm doing now, running and raising money.
Where in India are you from?
Punjab. Yeah,
Punjab
my
kitha?
parents are, yes, so my dad was born before partition. So he was born in a town, I think it's called Faisalabad now.
That's in Pakistan, yep.
Yeah, now. But our Bind was just outside of Pagoda, and so that's where they ended up settling. And my mom was born in Amritsar, and she left India my mom left India when she was, I
Wait,
think,
I gotta
11
give
or
you a
12.
fist bump. I gotta give you a
Oh,
fist bump because I'm from
boom.
Amritsar too. That's my
Okay.
hometown.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. My mom was born there, and she left there when she was about 11 or 12 and immigrated to England. Yeah. So, I have the immigrant story, man. My dad, yeah, he's 80 now. So he left India when he was 19, and he went to England, immigrated there. And I guess, this might come out in the conversation, but I think that's where I get a lot of my resilience and fortitude.
So you were born in England then, right?
No, I was born in Canada. I was born in London, Ontario. And yeah, and I have an older brother. He was born in England. And so yeah, my parents left England. Ooh, I'm 46. So they left England like 47, 48 years ago, something like that. And yeah, they immigrated to
What
Canada.
made them switch to from England to Canada?
Yeah, good question. My dad was so my dad had one goal when he left India, and so my grandfather said. So my dad had four younger sisters and one older brother, and my daiji he went into military, and my dad didn't want to be in police or military, so my grandfather gave him an option. It's either you join the military or policing, or you leave and get an education. So my dad said, okay, I'll leave and I'll get an education. So he left India, went to England at 19, December 25th. It was a Christmas day. He left India. And the stories you hear, he never saw snow before. When he landed in England, he saw snow for the first time. And he'd never seen a white person before. And
Wow.
he'd never seen a woman in a dress before. So for him, it was a massive culture shock, right? And so, anyways, he worked. I went to school during the day and worked in a factory all night. And he did that for 4 or 5 years in university nonstop until he graduated. And then he got a master's in engineering, and he became an electrical engineer. And he got a master's degree at the University of Wales at Cardiff. I think the only person of color that actually got a master's degree, and he was the highest educated in his entire family at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, and then so that's what brought him to Canada. He was an engineer looking for a job, and then he came to Canada.
And is that why you kind of got into law enforcement? Because, like, your grandfather was in the military, and then he wanted, you know, his, son to be a part of in military or some sort of, like, service to the country.
Um, honestly, I messed up most of my life growing up. Wasn't good at school. I was mucking around a lot, partying, doing all kinds of stuff, and I was never really good at school. Like I wasn't good at all. I went to university, University of Texas at Dallas when I graduated, and when I was living in Dallas in high school. And our life wasn't. I was dealing with a lot of things at the time, so went to school, never studied, dropped out, and I kept doing that over and over again. And then eventually it got to a point where my dad's like, "What?" He was fed up with me. And he's like, "Man, just join." He's like, "Just join the military, do something." And that's kind of what precipitated me joining the military. It was almost like he's like, "You need to figure out your life. Maybe you can figure it out there."
I don't know if you relate with this or not. Students who are kind of C graders, they actually do much more in their life than students who are A or B graders. What do you think? What's your perspective in that?
I can speak from my own. Excuse me. I can speak from my own perspective. School never interested me, and the studies. Well, the studies that were I was learning was really. I don't like to be forced to do things that I don't want to do. So like some of the classes I liked that they were fine, but they weren't like classes that I would be getting a job from or getting a career out of, right? So I didn't know what to do because everyone said you had to do this thing or you had to get a business degree or you had to get this or you had to do that. And I was like, man, I don't want to do accounting. I freaking hate it. It's boring. So I think for me, I'm smart. I'm not stupid. But I was never interested in the things that were presented to me. And be honest, the only time I've really been engaged, like to the degree that I am now, was 4 years ago. Like that's when I really started engaging what the things I wanted to do. And as soon as I engaged the things I wanted to do and that I was passionate about, I excelled. So, I mean, I think that's pretty important to understand what you're passionate about because with passion you'll work day and night to achieve whatever you want. And if you're not passionate about something, then well, it's a waste of time.
Waste of life, I would say. I don't know. I was, like I told you a little bit about myself. I was passionate about art. I was passionate about photography and all that good stuff. And I kind of I was going to graduate from an arts degree, and well, my parents' friend, they were like, "Okay, arts degree is not gonna get you anywhere. You're not gonna make any money, so switch to IT and business." And when I did that, and I got my first job, I was like, "This is not what I like to do. This is not fun. That's not my passion." And did that for 5 years. My first IT job, and I quit my first job last June. I like to say I retired from 9 to 5 because I don't think I'm going to go back to it. And I'm all in podcasting. I'm all in content creation, and I love to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, every life isn't only about making money, right? No, and I understand the parents' perspective, or family perspective. They want their child to be secure and safe and all these types of things. But that's a short-term gain. It's not a long-term gain. And I think, over a period of time, you'll see a lot of people doing things for many, many years that they don't want to do, but they're doing it just because they need a paycheck and they need some sort of security, right? And I think that inevitably leads to unhappiness and depression and various other things, alcohol abuse, all kinds of stuff that you see in various different communities. And yeah, so
Do you think money gets you respect
from whom?
from
Who do you
society,
want? Who,
from
who
family?
cares? Who cares? Do you respect yourself? Right? Um, I I think if you don't respect yourself, having respect of others doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. Who
What do
cares?
you mean by respect yourself? They're like that's like a broad term, right?
Hmm. Okay, so when you say respect, what do you mean? So if you want respect of your family and friends and people around you, what does that mean to you?
It's the value that you earn through what you do.
Okay, so wouldn't that if you create value out of something you've earned, wouldn't that create respect for yourself?
It makes sense.
And isn't and for me, I want to value myself before others valuing me. I don't need external validation, or at least I don't want it. I want to value myself first.
I think
And
that's where
through
people
that,
lack.
I don't know, I did. I did for sure. I didn't respect the things that I was doing because I didn't value them. I didn't value them. It didn't resonate with me. And I'm the one who has to live this life. My neighbor doesn't. I have to be happy about who I am. And if I'm doing something for 20 years that eventually I'm not valuing anymore, then my respect for myself goes down. And then maybe negative behaviors start coming in because I don't respect myself. But if you value who you are and you value the things that you do, then you respect yourself. And if you respect yourself over time, consistently going on that path, the external validation will come. And when it does, you won't care.
It's a big one.
That's what I'm learning right now. Because I'm doing things I never thought in a million years I could do or achieve, right? And I had no respect for myself. I can say that now because I'm confident in who I am now.
What
But
do
I
you mean
didn't
by
really,
you don't have no respect for yourself?
I didn't before. Before I went on this sort of path and this journey I'm on now of self discovery, understanding who I am, understanding what I want, understanding the things that drive me. And I think, if you don't really respect yourself, and look, to do all this, you have to sit down and think, right? And reflect a lot and have a lot of introspection. And I think that's the beginning steps of understanding if you respect yourself or not. And, for me, I value certain things, and that's for me. It's not for everybody. I'm not saying everyone has to be like me. I have to be like me. I don't care what anyone else does. So I have to be like me. And through that, that inspires others to maybe question things or look at things a bit differently. Because there's more than one way to skin a cat. That's what my dad used to say. There's more than one way to do something. And I think what's important for people to realize is, what do you want to do? That's the first question you want to ask yourself. What do you want to do? And then figure out how to do it. And then from there, figure out how fast or how long or how slow you want to get to that point. So all this other noise around you is all white noise. It's all nonsense because no one's inside you. No one understands who you are. Shoot, man, you probably don't know who you are yet. It takes time to figure it out. And it takes a lot of mistakes and a lot of errors and a lot of falling down and picking yourself back up and doing it over again and over again and over again. And it takes a lifetime to be authentically who you are. I'm 46. I'll be 47 in January. Only now I understand who I am. And that took me some time and effort to figure out and sacrifice.
Is it okay if I go a little personal?
100%.
Perfect. Okay, so you were in law enforcement for 18 years,
Yeah.
and I'm damn sure it wasn't easy, right?
I went into it understanding what the job was. So for me, the experiences, I mean, what was hard? The challenging parts was learning how to do the job, understanding the laws and all this kind of stuff and how to apply them and how to enforce them. Sure, okay. I think the difficult parts for me at the beginning was I'm generally empathetic and I take on people's energy if I'm around them, or at least I can feel it. And when I first started, I could feel, enforcing the laws in certain ways. And sometimes I'm like, oh man, this kind of sucks because I can understand this person's perspective, but I still have to do certain things to make sure those things don't happen anymore. So at the beginning, when I first started, that was kind of challenging for me. And I had to reconcile, okay, well, I got to do a job, so I have to shut off. And so that taught me to shut off and build walls around me so I wouldn't feel as much. And you'll see that in law enforcement quite a bit. A lot of people will say, oh, why are they so mean? Or why are they so this? Or why are they so that? Sometimes, at least for me, I had to kind of do that so I wouldn't feel as much when I would be talking to people. Like people have tough, like, let's say I was working immigration and customs, right? So I was at the airport. And so I'd have people coming into the country trying to come here to work without authorization or doing illegal things, sell drugs, whatever, right? And so, for example, if I'm talking about someone coming here to work, right? The experience in the United States is very similar. And let's say you get a Mexican national coming up to Canada to work without authorization. 9 times out of 10, they're not bad people. They're just trying to do better for themselves and their family, but they're not doing it the right way. So I can understand that, but I still have to say, hey, sorry, bro, you're out. I gotta remove you and you can't come back. So for me to be able to do the job effectively, I had to shut down certain emotions and I had to put up walls. So for me, I could do the job properly. And you can't be in the workplace and have confusion as what to do or what not to do. You got to do the decision, right? So I think over a period of time, that was the hardest part for me because I turned into a different person over 18 years. I became a lot harder, a lot less friendly,
Did
right?
that
These types of
affect your
things.
personal life?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I
Can you
mean, it
talk
affected
about
a
it?
lot of things. Yeah, sure. Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
How was
You
how
got
was it
it?
at how how was how was it at home and you used to come from work?
So I think I would be very short-tempered and I would have limited patience because all day, every day, I would be talking to people and I would be exhausted emotionally and mentally from that. So then when I would come home or speak to friends or whoever, my ex-wife or whatever, I wasn't my best self. And I wouldn't, like, how I'm listening to you right now and I'm expressing myself freely? I would never do that. Just wouldn't happen. I wouldn't talk to you. I was very, very judgmental of people. And now, back then, I would probably not talk to most people if I didn't think I respected you, right? Or if you had something that I respected, I wouldn't even have a conversation with you. And if so, I was a bit of an asshole, right? And I think over time, I realized I was an asshole, and I was being a person that I didn't want to be, and I had to figure out how to unpack all of that and deal with some of the experiences throughout life, growing up as a child, work, all the different type of traumas I've experienced throughout life, and I had to figure out how to properly process them so that I can get to where I'm at now. So, you see a lot of people in our community drinking, and I used to be a drinker, right? I used to drink often on weekends, go out with buddies or whatever. And I didn't realize until recently, in the last few years, that I was just doing that just to do it, just to self medicate or engage with people or not feel certain things. Because feeling certain things was very unpleasant for me. I didn't like it. And but now I'm very vulnerable at any moment I can be, and I don't care. Like, I'm okay with it because I'm not scared of being judged by anyone else because I respect myself. So it comes back to that: being able to respect yourself, knowing who you are, loving who you are, and being authentic. I don't give a what people say because I know who I am and I understand what I'm capable of. So these things all give me self confidence and self worth. But it takes a lot of work, right?
Running for first responders, we actually don't talk about what sort of mental health they go through. They help people, they put their lives out there to help other people's families, and we never ever think about their health, their mental health. What do you want to talk about that? What do you want to say about that?
I'll share my experience over the last 4 years, kind of give you an understanding where I was, and maybe, and I mean, you don't know really the story behind why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'll share that real quickly and then if you have any questions outside of that, we can jump into those too. So about 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, I was going through separation and divorce, and I was married. My daughter was 2 at the time, and that was really challenging for me because I was presented with the type of person I was. My wife, I wasn't a good husband, and she wanted to get a divorce, and so for me, I was like, oh man, why am I like, I'm a good person inside. Why am I? Why do I have bad patterns of behavior? Why do I do things that aren't appropriate? Why do I, I was asking myself these questions. So, we're going through the divorce, and then we had a house that we had bought together, and up here in Canada it's very expensive, so we had a basement suite in the house that we would rent out. So I moved into the basement suite, and we were fully divorced. I'm paying rent. My daughter's upstairs. Like, it was difficult for me, and I'm sure it was very difficult for my ex-wife, but we had to figure out how to make things work. And then the pandemic happens, and the pandemic in BC was very challenging because we weren't allowed to do anything. We weren't allowed to go out. We weren't allowed to go to gym. We weren't allowed to do anything. Now, if you can imagine, if you're in a basement suite with limited windows and lights and you're stuck in there for weeks at a time, what that might do to your mental health, especially when you're going through a divorce and you're left with the type of person that you are at the time, which wasn't a good person in my perspective. So I was struggling a lot with that. And then financially, I lost everything. So I had to figure out how to, oh man, I got no money. I'm 40 something years old. What the hell am I going to do? Just got divorced. All these things, right? And then to add to it, work started becoming a major challenge for me because of the pandemic, we were on a schedule of going to work for 2 weeks and then coming home for 2 weeks so that we would manage illnesses so that the entire operation wouldn't be sick and, we wouldn't close the border, right? So I had no safe spaces around me, and I had limited interactions with people because my friends of the 18 years really I stopped talking to through law enforcement. Now I'm isolated. I'm alone and I'm by myself all the time. And all I was doing was ruminating. So I have anxiety and depression already. But this exasperated everything. So I ended up having, they used to call it a nervous breakdown, but now they call it a major depressive episode, where it's a high level of dysfunction when it comes to depression, limited amounts of sleep for weeks on end. And so I was sleeping maybe 2 or 3 hours a night for weeks. Like I wasn't sleeping. So that exasperated my mental health until the point where it just got too much and I had to go see a doctor, and ended up getting some medication. And then I was like, okay, man, I'm 40 whatever years old. I've driven my life into a ditch. My life sucks right now. How do I fix it? That's what I started doing. So I started reading a bit more. I wasn't much of a reader, so I started reading. And then from there, I read another book or I read the first two chapters of David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And the underlying theme in that book is chase adversity or do hard things. And at the time, I misinterpreted it as do hard things physically. And for me at the time, running was hard. So I said, okay, I'm going to run. And now, mind you, I'm about 175 pounds right now. And at the time, I was 200 pounds, bodybuilder, very big, right? I was a big dude. And so running was very difficult. So I started running very small amounts. And I got back from work in the evening. It was raining outside, and I was having a really, really bad day emotionally. And I was like, man, okay, I got to go out for a run. And my shoes were like probably 10 years old. Yeah, so very different than how I do things now. So I put the shoes on and I went out for about 3 hours just running around in the rain. And after I had done that, I was really proud of myself because I had never done anything like that in my life. No one told me to do it. No one forced me to do it. And I did it on my own without any assistance. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't fast or anything. It was just, I just did it. And I was in pain throughout the entire process. And when I got home, I liked the feeling that it gave me emotionally. That's what I liked. I liked that it made me feel better about who I was in that moment. So I thought, okay, let me do more of this. So I kept doing it, kept running, nothing, just all on my own. No one telling me, no coaches, nothing. Just me just running. And then eventually by February of 2021, I was at a point where I was running about 6 miles every day. And which is so 10 kilometers every single day. I was running about that. And so 70 kilometers a week or 42 miles a week. And then I heard a podcast. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had a guy named Cameron Haynes on it. And Cameron Haynes is a guy in his 50s. He's an ultra endurance athlete. He's a hunter. And I heard him talking about how he was training for a race. And the race was the Moab 240. It's a 240-mile run in the Moab Desert in Utah. So it's a days. You're running for days nonstop. And I was like, what? I didn't know people did that. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I had no idea that people did those types of things. And then he continued talking about how he would train for it. And he was talking about, and he was working full time, and he's in his 50s, right? He was talking about he would run 21 kilometers in the morning, half marathon in the morning, go to work, and then after work run another 21. So he was running a marathon every single day for training in his 50s. And I was like, holy shit, man, that's crazy. And I thought I was a badass because I was a jiu-jitsu guy, jiu-jitsu guy, bodybuilder, all that kind of stuff. And I looked the part. And I thought, man, I want to do that. That's what I said. And I was like, I want to be able to do that. I had no clue how to do it. I just said, I kind of want, like, that's cool. So then I set a challenge for myself in February of 2021 to run 21 kilometers every single day for a week. And so I started with 11 kilometers a day. Every week I would add 1 more kilometer to that 11. So it'd be 11, then next week 12, then 13, and so on. Until after 10 weeks, I got to 21 kilometers every single day. And I was doing that while working full time. I was a canine handler, so I was also taking care of my dog, going through the divorce, managing I was doing everything all at the same time, and I still did that, which gave me a level of confidence that I never thought, man. Like, I just ran 150 kilometers in a week, and I never thought in a million years I could do that. So when I did that, I was like, oh, what else can I do? It started opening up doors, right? So I kept pushing. And I kept running, kept training. And then in about August, I was like, shit, man, there's got to be a way for me to leverage this for positivity. So I thought, okay, I'm going to run 100 kilometers. I'm going to run 100 kilometers and raise money for charity. So from August until November 7th is when I ran, November 7th, 2021, I ran from a town called Chilliwack to the Vancouver airport. It's 100 kilometers. And I ran that 100 kilometers in under 15 hours. And I raised that, and in that time frame, I raised $21,000 for veterans and first responders with PTSD. So I had never done anything like that in my entire life. Most of my life, I've been pretty selfish. just doing shit for myself. But when I did that, I felt entirely different. So after I had run that 100 kilometers in November of 2021, I became even more depressed.
After running the marathon?
Yeah, after running the 100 kilometers, because I felt I couldn't relate to anyone. So my friends around me, I couldn't relate to anymore. They're all, doing all the same things. I didn't want to do anything. I just felt really isolated and different. And when you're isolated and alone, depression really is a lot worse in those circumstances. So I was really in a dark spot. But I knew at the time, I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink, because if I drink, I know it's going to be a wrap. I'm going to do something bad. So I thought, okay, we're not going to drink. So I made a commitment to myself not to drink. And I just kind of kept training. And then I ran into this one guy. I not ran into him, but I met this guy named Sean Taylor. I met him through social media and mutual friends. He's a retired guy from the Canadian military. 30-minute coffee turned into about a 3-hour conversation. And we sat down for about 3 hours. And he could tell I was in a bad spot, so he wanted to help. And he wanted to just kind of listen and talk to me. And after that conversation, I was like, man, can we keep doing this? And he's like, if you think it'll help you, we can keep talking. And then I thought, okay. Now, he lives 7 hours away, so we were not about to drive back and forth. So we started Zoom calling each other. So for maybe 5-6 days out of the week, almost every single day, we would Zoom call. No time limit, 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it took. We were just talking. And we were having conversations. And through these conversations, he learned a lot about me. And for me, I don't respect very many people. At least at that time, I didn't. Right? So no one could help me other than this person, because I wouldn't have given anyone the time of day, because I thought I was the shit. So anytime I had a conversation with him, I usually was very argumentative, but I couldn't argue much with him because he had way more experience and wisdom that I could even argue with. So through that process, we were talking almost every single day for 2 months. And he performance coached me out of where my mind was at the time. And without meeting him, I probably wouldn't be here right now. I probably wouldn't have raised over $80,000 for charity. I probably wouldn't be running the kind of shit that I'm doing right now. And I probably wouldn't be getting ready to break the record for the fastest run across Canada next year. So through learning with him, I then started figuring out, okay, what's my purpose? What's my why? And he asked me that question directly. And I urge anyone who's listening to this, you as well, sit down and ask yourself, what's your purpose and what's your why? And don't leave until you write that down on a pen and paper. And it took me 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks to kind of really think about it. And my purpose is this. And I created such a purpose so that it doesn't ever change. I just want to maximize my skill sets for everyone around me to affect permanent positive change. So basically, just be the best version of yourself, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything else other than trying to be the best version of who I am in every single way that I can.
I have many questions from this story. I'm just gonna go one by one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
First question: do you still think about the pain that you went through divorce?
No,
Are you content?
I can't change the past. All I can control is what I do today. I can't change what happened. Because if I continue dwelling on that and saying, oh man, oh man, oh man, it doesn't change it. It just makes me feel bad. So what I do is take a step back, objectively look at what happened, what was my ownership in all of that, and what did I do to create or have that marriage go down, and then make sure that those things don't happen again. That's all I can do. And and then keep moving forward. So I don't have regrets. I feel bad that, my ex had to go through a lot of trauma and pain, but I can't control that now. What I can control now is being the best version of myself. So moving forward, she won't feel those things. So I'm still her friend and I'm still around. And if she asks for anything from me, I'm there. So I can be the best version of myself now. Not to say that I'm ever going to be back together, and like, we're different humans now. So she's on her own journey, I'm on my own journey, but I'm still going to be there no matter what, and the best version of myself, so I can help whenever she needs it.
I noticed that you've pointed out, your age. Now I'm 47. I'm gonna be 47. I'm 46. Do you feel like you could have done all this stuff, early stage of your life, or maybe like when you had time, when you had, uh, when you were young, you could have done those stuffs earlier.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. No, I'm at the right time, the right experience, and the right person to do what I'm doing right now. And the reason why I mention my age is not because I'm insecure about it. I'm mentioning it so everyone out there can understand you can do anything you want at any age, despite how difficult it is, despite how hard things are. I started this when I was 42, 43, around, 42, 43, and around there. And, all the people around me is like, oh, how are you going to do this? How are you going to doubt, doubt, doubt? And reasonable, I get it, because not many people, and I would say a very, 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 very small percentage of people are doing what I'm doing right now. Just not doing it. And I would know if they are because I'm trying to find them.
Mm,
There aren't people doing what I'm doing. They're doing people are doing ultra endurance running and races and that, but they're not doing what I'm doing because I've created something myself through my own experiences and my own imagination. I've created something that no one else can think of because it's me. This is my experience. And I want to share that my age is irrelevant, man. You can start at any time to create whatever you want. It just is going to be freaking hard. It's going to be hard. And this hasn't been easy for me. Financially, it's still a challenge. I know, and I'm going to share some things that might be, someone might think it's me, I don't know, complaining or whining. It's not that. I want to express to you what the circumstance is, and I'm still able to achieve what I'm achieving. I make no money. I make no money coming in. I don't have a job. I don't have a business. I don't, nothing. So all of the things that I'm doing is trying to figure out and hustle, right? Sell some shirts here, maybe coach a person there, whatever. But I still pay all my bills, pay my child support, and do all the things that are required of me. I have less. I don't need much. Everyone else around me, cool. I'll give them what they need. I don't need a fancy car. I don't need a big house. I'm limiting my resources, not forever, until I need to expand more. So for me, before I started on the 60-kilometer journey for 60 days, I barely had food in my fridge. I
wow.
yeah, I was this close to going to the food bank just so I can feed myself. And I'm not saying that to complain. I'm saying that to show what conviction looks like and discipline and dedication looks like. I could have gone back to work or get a job yesterday and make over $100,000 a year, but it's not what I want to do. So I'm investing in myself now with the belief that once I'm done, I'll be fine. Now, I don't know if that'll be the case, but we'll see what happens. So, it's hard. It's not easy. It's a significant challenge, but so is living a life that you don't want to live just so you can pay a bill and have a car. That, I would argue, that's even shittier than experiencing what I have because now I know what I'm capable of. I can do anything. I legitimately can. If you tell me something and say, can you do this? I'll just tell you how long or how much time do I have to do it. That's it. If you give me enough time, I'll do it. Like, it's not a problem because I've built that belief in myself. Like, I just ran 3,600 kilometers. Like, half of 1% of the planet can do that. Like, legitimately. And I just started running. So I think anyone can achieve anything if you're willing to work your ass off and you believe in it. Without passion, you won't do that. Without passion, I look in that fridge, I'm like, fuck, I gotta go get a job. But you need to be passionate and believe in yourself. And I think it's fundamentally comes down to that.
Why do you think our culture is toxic? And why do you think there's so much responsibility on men in a way that they cannot even have time to think about themselves?
Hmm. That's it. I mean, okay, let's start with the first part. Why do you think our community is toxic? And what do you mean by that?
Toxic, well, okay. So I think the way that I think our community is toxic in a way is because um, it puts I might a lot of people might not like this.
Hey, but yeah, you asked the question, so we got to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. So okay. So I think it's all about the power. And especially we are all like, we're living in a male dominant society. And yeah,
So can you so
within
in within India or within North America, within the Indian community? What do you
within the
mean?
Punjabi
Okay,
community,
good. Yeah, okay.
right? So we're living in a male dominant society, right? And within the Punjabi community, right? And in that sense, we put pressure on men, right? In that sense, what I think, put pressure on men. And when we put pressure on men, in a sense, we try to give them the strength that they're needed, and we kind of push them to do better. And we kind of give them validations also. Because at an end, we are not safe. It all comes about safety and security.
Yeah, I think that may be the culture, perhaps, right? But if look again, I'm not religious, but if I guess if you would go back to some of the religious teachings in Sikhism, it's not that. It doesn't teach that. So what's how is that being taught? I think it's cultural rather than religious, right? So or spiritual or you know whatever. So it's the culture that kind of creates that. So it's not just Punjabi culture. I would argue that a lot of India is like that. In various different states, they have that sort of culture, right? Why it's that way, I don't know why it's that way. I mean, it could be a billion different reasons. How to counter it, I kind of have a rough idea, and that's individual responsibility. Every individual should be owning their own lives, man, woman, or not. So you're talking about the husband passing away and the mom making sure that, like, mom should figure out for herself how she needs to be a savage, how she needs to create for herself.
But
And then,
that's not what's taught in a society.
sure, then don't listen to the society. I stopped. So that's, I mean, I can't explain society or not because I'm not a sociologist or anything and I haven't done the studies, but I can tell you as an individual, you have all the power.
Yes, you have.
You control everything. It's like a video game. You're the main character in a video game. You get to decide what you want to do, no one else. So that's your own weakness that's listening to the society that you think that the society is telling you what's better for you. Now, like I said earlier, it's freaking hard to take ownership and individual responsibility. So people don't want to do it. So it's easier for them to say, oh, I'm just a woman and I'll do this for this and I'll get this back. But that's not the case. My daughter's 7. I want her to have individual responsibility. Whatever she wants to do, like, fine, cool, do it. If you want to be a housewife, cool, whatever, right? But I want her to make that decision. I want her to decide that, not me. I want her to decide what she feels she wants to do with her life and take ownership of it. Once you take ownership of what you want to do with your life, no one can stop you. You control then everything, right? And all the other things are external things that bother you. Now, is it hard? Yeah. Is it easy to disconnect from that white noise, which is your parents, brother, sister, uncle, whoever? Fuck yeah, it is. I know. I'm Punjabi. I grew up in a house. I grew up in a household. I This is what I did 4 years ago. I created boundaries around everyone. I told everyone to fuck off, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You either like it or
Like
you
in a
don't.
literal sense,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I just said, this is what I'm doing. Either you get on board or you're out of my life. Simple. Because I was at a stage in my life that I saw my family and I saw everything. I don't want to live that life. Why, if I don't want to live that life, why would I listen to them? I was trying to find people that I resonated with. I love my parents. I don't resonate with them. I'm not, I'm different than my parents. I'm not a guy who's going to get a master's in engineering. Just fuck that, man. So I had to find people that I resonate with. And my friend Sean Taylor is that guy. Or a bunch of other people that I've met since are those people. So I had to create a different environment for myself, remove the old one and create a new one, and then take the steps necessary to move in that direction. And it's hard. I mean, it's not easy. And people who are listening to this are gonna be, yeah, whatever. Oh, that's, good. Yeah, you could do it, but I can't do it, man. My dad used to beat the shit out of me, man. I know. I know. I grew up in a culture. My dad used to drink. I grew up in the culture. But I don't want to live that life. So how do you want to live your life? That's what you got to ask yourself. And if the people around you aren't giving you or helping you or reinforcing the life that you want to live, you got to put a boundary up. Doesn't mean that boundary is there forever, but the boundary is there until you get your feet to get on, stand on your own 2 feet, figuring out what you're doing. My boundary's gone with my parents now because they see it. They're like, oh, okay.
Mm.
Now they're proud like crazy. And I don't make money. It's not because of the money. It's because of what I'm doing. That's what I'm not even religious. I'm doing Seva like every single day in the way that I think it should be done.
Right.
And I think maybe that's what makes my parents proud. Maybe what makes them proud is that I'm doing something that's very difficult and I'm achieving something there. Maybe that's what makes them proud now. Rather than, I don't know, becoming some guy in an office, 9 to 5, waiting to die after 40 years.
Mm. It's tough, bro. It's not easy. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Even like finding my passion, what I wanted to do was pretty difficult for me. Like you've already know, like I had 9 to 5 job. While I was doing 9 to 5 job, I was finding my passion in a sense that what I need to do, what I like doing, rather than 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I like learning, and then like videography, like photography. I don't know, maybe let's combine them together. So that's how I started my YouTube channel 3 years back. Had a conversation with my husband. This is what I want to do, and what do you think? What do you think about that? And he's like, "Yeah, go, sure, do it. Do what makes you happy." And he was like, people are very lucky that they find the passion in a sense that they want to serve the community, and that's where your real happiness is, and that's where your real purpose lies in. And it's very important, and it sometimes people take forever to find that.
There's a couple things I want to mention. Um, it's interesting. We weren't doctors, scientists, engineers, lawyers. We weren't that. We were artists and fighters. That's where we come from, right? We come from a land of poets and fighters. So that's art, man. Being a fighter is a martial art. Gatka is a martial art. It's an art. Learning how to wield a weapon and all this stuff. And then also you're a saint at the same time. What is that? Artistic. Painting, drawing, writing, singing. Like all the shabdas are in their music. So we're artists, man. We're not scientists. And I think people have forgotten that. We come from a land of that, right? And I think, it's important to recognize that's who we are. And if that's what you like, man, get after it. And if you're passionate about it, do it. And if you don't make a ton of money, that's okay too, man. As long as you're happy. Like, I mean, like, and you're no, actually, happy is not the right word. As long as your life is meaningful, okay? Because happiness is fleeting; it's an emotion, right? But meaning is not. Meaning is long lasting, and with meaning in your life, then you have satisfaction. Earning 100,000, a million, 10 million, really is no meaning behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example, or how I kind of look at it. I have a ton of trophies and medals all over the place from different sort of activities, of jiu-jitsu medals, running medals, bodybuilding trophies, all of these things. They don't mean anything to me. Mean nothing. Because it's just a task. And then someone gave me something for it. It's that medal means nothing. It's the process of me doing the thing, getting to the end. That whole journey of achieving that medal is more important than that medal for me. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm competing in all these tournaments and bodybuilding. None of it matters to me. It's all boring. I had to find something more meaningful. And I'm fortunate at the stage of my life to find meaning in my life, and I think it's never going to go away. And with this type of meaning and purpose, I'm enjoying it now, and it's fun, right? So there's that. I think I feel like a millionaire without having $1 million.
I had a lot of fun, talking about the stuff that I had questions with, and I got a clarity. And this is, I've said that a lot of times to few of my guests, that I connect with people, with the guests, and that can give me the answers to what questions that I have in my life. And I think it's a connection between God or whatever, that I get my answers through my guests, and this is one of those conversations. And so towards the end, I would like to say is, first of all, thank you, and second of all is, what's moving next?
So next, I'm going to take a bit of a break and take a bit of a week or two of rest and recovery from after the hard effort that I just done, and then get back to work, which is training. And my next massive goal is to run across Canada, starting next June. And excuse me. So that, for your listeners, is a significant challenge because I'm attempting to break the record for the fastest run across Canada. And what does that mean? So that's 7,300 kilometers from coast to coast, with the
Wow.
equivalent of climbing Mount Everest 7 times, the vertical gain of running. So it'd be the equivalent of Mount Everest 7 times. And so to break the record, I have to run 110 kilometers every single day for 66 days through that terrain. And look, I don't know if I can do it. I'm putting my best foot forward and I'm going to try my best. But the reality is, if I'm unable to do that, I'll be the first person of color to run across the country. And in Canada, it's a thing to run across Canada, because 40 years ago, there was a guy named Terry Fox. And Terry Fox was a cancer patient. He had his leg amputated. And in 1982, I believe it was, he wanted to do something called the Marathon of Hope. And he wanted to raise money for cancer research. And he attempted to run across Canada on a prosthetic leg. And
Wow.
he made it halfway across the country. And then his cancer came back and he passed away. So they have statues of him in this country, here in BC, Ontario, all over the place. So he's a legend. And since his passing, over $1 billion in research for cancer has been raised in his name in the last 40 years. So that's why I'm running across Canada, because I believe mental health issues are a modern day cancer. And I want to raise as much awareness as I possibly can. And if I can do 1% of the legend Terry Fox, then it's a win. Breaking the record, cool. If I get close to it, cool. The reality is I'll probably get close to it, if not breaking it. So I can. The goal is, at least if I can get to 100 kilometers a day for 70 days, then we're in the ballpark. And if I'm able to do that, I'll be the top third fastest runner in the country for running across Canada. And man, it's a huge thing to break that glass ceiling, because our community doesn't know anything about these types of things. A lot of people of color don't know anything about these types of things, like Black people, Asian people, like a lot of people just aren't into this space as much. And, being the first person of color to run across this country for charity and for this reason, I think I'm hopeful that it's impactful for a lot of people. And I'm hopeful that we can raise a lot of money, like $1 million. And that's as far as I'm seeing. After that, I don't know. Because I started this plan 4 years ago. My entire plan started with the idea to run across Canada. So I've been on a 5-year plan that I've been executing against every single day since. And after that, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe go on some more podcasts, maybe. I don't know.
This is amazing. It's kind of, I definitely got like few points that you need a clarity in your life. You do need a sense of purpose, serving of others, and that's the real wealth. That's the real happiness. That's the real contentment you're gonna have in your
I want
life.
to I want to add one more piece just before we finish. When you're thinking of other people, you're not thinking about yourself, so you're not getting depressed. If you're thinking about how to serve people, you're not thinking about how crappy your life might be or how not crappy it is, because you're thinking of other people. So when you're thinking about yourself all the time, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do. Oh yeah, you're gonna feel like shit, man. Start thinking of other people. Do some seva. Go gurdwara. Go to mandir. Go to masjid. Go somewhere. Do something. Help people, and then you'll notice how much of a difference your life will make.